Hi everybody, today I am here to talk to you about Parkrun and reaching my 100th milestone. And even though it's not a lofty number like some people have managed to accrue, my journey has spanned 8 years and 4 months since my first Parkrun to the Parkrun that was yesterday, which was my 100th. So let's start at the end. The 100th. I did this yesterday with my wife Holly, who was doing her 100th as well with my 7-year-old daughter who was doing her 50th, like a hero. So we went yesterday, we did that and we filmed that and it was all great and lovely and sweet. But my story starts a long time ago in a parkrun far, far away. Every story needs a start point, and it makes sense that mine start just before I attended my first parkrun. Now, to set the scene, I had just come off the back of several years of really intense strength training, and in that time, cardiovascular exercise was minimal. There wasn't much running, there wasn't much care for that kind of thing. The objective was to get big, it was to get strong. That meant consuming an enormous amount of calories every single day, lifting huge weights several times a week. So I ended up taking part in some strongman competitions, just amateur, local level strongman competitions, and I did okay. But in one such competition, I hurt my shoulder, and it was an awakening for me in that I could get quite badly hurt doing this kind of lifting. And I took this as an opportunity to step back from that kind of training. The problem is all the calories that I had consumed, everything that I'd eaten to get to that weight, and I was about 100 kilograms on my frame, and I didn't carry it very well. So I'd gained all this extra mass for that strength. And as strong as I was, when I stopped training like that, it just left me in an overweight, kind of fat looking state, and I didn't like what I was looking at. So the immediate reaction was to try and drop it, and the fastest way I could think of doing that was to start running regularly. So that's exactly what I did. I started running, and sooner or later I caught wind of this sort of new phenomenon. Have you heard about this park run that's down at the park? I said, oh, okay. So I agreed to go down and run one. And I was immediately sort of taken by the fact that it was timed and ranked. Even though it wasn't technically a race, there was an element of competitiveness to it. You know, I was able to run the last 100 meters in sort of full sprint mode, overtake a few people, and it was quite exhilarating. So that kind of racing or running just had me want to go back every now and again. Okay, so how does someone go from attending their very first parkrun, not really caring greatly about the event, attending only every now and again, take it or leave it mentality, right through to now at my 100th event, where I try to attend them all if I can, and it's a cornerstone of my weekly routine, and it's massively important to my immediate family. It is a massive shift in mentality, and that is huge in this particular origin story. As 2015 knocked on, my fiancée Holly announced that she was pregnant with what would become Isabelle, our first child. She had also started to do parkruns and just running in general, just to keep herself fit and active throughout the pregnancy. She carried on doing this until she was about 32 to 34 weeks from memory, I think it was, and she would show up each week with an ever so slightly larger payload to carry around, and she decided at about 34 weeks that that would be enough. I continued to run right up until Isabelle was born. I think it was only 24 hours prior I was running a parkrun when Isabelle made her appearance, and boy did she make her appearance.
Oh, baby! Oh my God! Oh, yes, yes. You got me on your belly. Yes, forward.
So late on a Sunday evening, Isabelle was born, and she was born quickly and at home. And we somehow ended up being in the papers, on the news, and on Loose Women, in fact, as a result of me filming and delivering the baby. I did it all by myself. Holly obviously did some of it. But yes, we became sort of pseudo-famous for the best part of a week at the time when we were really just trying to figure out how to be first-time parents. Prior to Isabelle being born, we had bought a running pushchair, and we bought one specifically that could attach a crib basket, like a car seat basket thing, on top of the actual pushchair, so she could be pushed as a baby as well as like a small child. So at about a month, we returned back to Braunston, and we put Isabelle in this thing, and I would, for the most part, do the pushing, while Holly would, she was returning to sort of running form after giving birth. I put cameras, obviously, on the pushchair at one point or another, and we filmed Isabelle bombing around Braunston Parkrun more than one occasion. As time knocked on, our situation at home changed, in that Holly had to go back to work, and she worked far away. So contractually, she needed to go back to sort of finish off her time there. This meant staying down south for 5 days at a time. And I took some shared parental leave to become sort of the primary parent throughout those days. It meant that Holly would have to drive 5 hours every Friday and every Monday to and from work. So the idea of sort of attending parkruns after doing all of that driving, and with only a finite amount of time at home with Isabelle, parkruns just fizzled out of the sort of priority order of life. So by 2017, we enter a period of flux, and lots of big life events happen to us all in quick succession, starting with moving out of our house into a temporary house. If you've ever moved house, you know just how stressful and time consuming the entire process can be, and we were in a rented house for an entire year. While we were there, Holly and we got married. We had a great day. Isabelle was flower girl, and it was just lovely. After that, we had almost immediately the job of packing that temporary house back up after a year of living there and moving it all to our forever home, a much bigger house that we were waiting for. So Parkrun just got put back to the back burners on this one, while we sort of figured out all of that life stuff. So how did I get back to Parkrun? How did I relight that fire that I have now, and I had when I was running at Braunston? It was a tough one. We went on holiday, in fact, to a little town called Felixstowe, sort of on the Suffolk coast. And they had a parkrun, and it was on sort of the promenade. It was one of these out and backs, and it was perfectly flat. Now, while I hadn't been parkrunning, I had been keeping fit. I had been running and gymming, and I'd lost a lot of the strongman weight, the additional timber that I'd been previously carrying around. So I sort of lined up on this parkrun, and I went. And I did okay. I did probably better than I ever had at any parkrun, and got 20:27. And this was a phenomenal time for me, and it made me want to return back to Parkrun. Well, it certainly made me want to return back to that Parkrun, because in my mind that's the one where I could break the 20-minute barrier for the first time. So you would think that I would have gone home and carried on parkrunning, but I didn't. There was still not enough to motivate me to do that when I got home. So in early 2019, Holly announces that she is pregnant with what would become Charlie. The pregnancy was completely normal and everything was going great. And on a fateful night, on December the 16th that year, Charlie was born at home by myself again. Unfortunately, this is where the story with Charlie takes a turn for the worst. He was born with extremely low oxygen and was whizzed straight off to the LRI and was placed immediately in ITU, which is the intensive care unit for babies. He was surrounded by sort of premature little babies, and he was under all sorts of lamps. He had wires coming out of his belly button, his feet, his hands, and had a blindfold on and a head cap. And he looked really bad. His skin had turned almost mahogany in colour as a result of extreme jaundice, and what made matters worse, that no one knew what was wrong with him. And we ended up being stuck in the hospital over Christmas. Over New Year, we were shipped off to Birmingham Children's Hospital, where we were there well into January, and then we were shipped back to Leicester, and then put in special care baby unit, and we're just trying to bring our son home. Once again, life was paused while we dealt with all of that. Shortly after Charlie was born, the entire country, the entire world was plunged into that COVID period.
That means the government is once again instructing you to stay at home.
Before we knew it, we were locked down and, we were hoarding toilet rolls and all of that stuff that happened at that time. Our situation was we had a young daughter who was bouncing off the walls, and we had a son who was perpetually poorly.
Uh-oh.
And obviously parkruns had all stopped. The good thing to come out of this entire scenario was that I was able to go out running most days. Over the course of sort of that 18-month period, I became really quite good at running and lost an enormous amount of weight because that's all I could do was just run and run and run and run. So inevitably, when the restrictions eased and I popped out the other side, I returned back to Felixstowe and ran a 1927 parkrun, smashing the 20-minute barrier for the first time in my entire life. A few months after I returned, I was still riding high from my 1927 effort at Felixstowe, I got wind of a brand new parkrun that was being put together at a country park near to where I live. It was called Watermead Country Park and would become Watermead Country Park Parkrun. I happen to know quite a few of those that were involved in putting it together, so I put my name forward to be on the core team. This gave me sort of insight as to what was going on. It allowed me to run on the test event and allowed me to have input and the ability to sort of help and bring this parkrun to life. So now we had a parkrun just down the road at a beautiful scenic country park on a nice flat route. We were suddenly really motivated to get up every Saturday morning, get the kids all wrapped up and in the pushchair and down to the park to do this parkrun. Holly and I would take it in turns. She would argue that she did it more to push the pushchair. It was a back front job, so think Maverick and Goose in that cockpit of the F-14. It was kind of like a crap version of that. And we would push this rattly old pushchair around this 5K each and every week. On the days that I was running at my own pace, I was able to attack that time that I set in Felixstowe. Over the next few months, I had 4 new PBs and brought my fastest time down to 19 minutes and 1 second. So as 2022 started, Isabelle was still 5 years old and still being pushed around in this double pushchair. As the weeks went by, she was taking more and more of an interest in getting out of the pushchair and running alongside. These were often short-lived and she'd end up jumping back in the pushchair when she was tired. But as each week passed, those running stints would get longer and longer and longer. And by April, she ran her very first ever full 5K parkrun, just having turned 6 years old.
We're the finish!
I can't even express how amazing that sounds when I say it out loud. So as that year knocked on, I was bringing my time down week on week. I was having a personal best just about every week. It would only often be by 1 second or 2 seconds, but I was inching my way down through the 18 to 19 minute. And before I knew it, I was knocking on the door of the 18-minute barrier, which when I say it out loud now is flabbergasting. Simultaneously, Isabelle was bringing her times down, and she started off running slowly, like with Granny, Sharon, and then her mum, Holly, but eventually she started to run the odd one with me, and she started to get faster and faster and faster.
Straight through.
Come on, you go! Go on!
Last bit! Last bit! You've got this, Isabelle! You've got this! Show them what we're made of! Go on! Come on! Go on! Go on, you got this! You got it! Go on!
So we entered the summer months, and the week before my 42nd birthday I ran an 18:03, which meant my 42nd birthday was on the very next Saturday. It meant the pressure was on to perform for this particular day. I took every precaution I could to sort of improve my chances of breaking the 18-minute barrier. I asked for a pacer, someone that could run faster than me, to sort of help. I had an early night, I drank lots of water, I chose my best running shoes, my best running kit, and I showed up that day on my 42nd birthday, and I went around this park run faster than I ever have at 5 45-minute miles, and came in at 17:52 in position 3. It was, and probably still is, the proudest I have ever felt after running in my entire life. So we're now in a great routine. We've got a great local parkrun. We're on the core team, and we're finding not only are we all doing great in our respective performances at the running, but we're taking it in turns to volunteer, which is a massive, important factor to parkruns, because they could not operate without volunteers. So I think I've adopted a few different roles over time. I started off as a scanner. I've been the photographer a number of times. I have been the RD twice. I've been a pacer a number of times, and I often sort out the photos and the media for the Facebook page. So I've had my finger in quite a few of the pies already. Holly and Sharon and even Isabelle have all volunteered countless times in respective positions at both Parkrun and Parkrun Junior, pretty much ever since we sort of became involved. And I think it's worth just pointing out just how awesome that is. It's not just about showing up each week and running. It's important to show that you go and do those sort of volunteer stints, if nothing else, just to say thank you to the rest of the people that put on these events each and every week. As we enter 2023, we're in a really good, steady routine where we would regularly show up at a parkrun where everybody knows who you are. Isabelle has been doing awesome. Her own YouTube channel is standing all by itself. She's so very well known at our parkrun, probably even more so than I am. Charlie, now he's not been spoken about for a little while. This entire time he has been pushed around in the pushchair. He gets sort of wrapped up and pushed around parkrun. Now, in addition to normal parkrun, Isabelle often returns on a Sunday to run the 2K kids parkrun, the Parkrun Junior event, which happens sort of at the same place. You can start doing that from 4 years old. And Charlie was 4 years old in December of last year, and that was the very first time we could get his barcode. But 4-year-olds are not very good at running straight away, and very few can get around a 2K course without a little bit of encouragement, let's say. So Charlie is no different. He's not necessarily took to it immediately, but if I think back, neither did Isabelle. It's all about encouragement, reward, and just repetition, just good habits. 2023 also saw us venture further afield on a number of occasions. This is known as Parkrun Tourism, where you go away from your home parkrun and take part in another parkrun. The benefit of doing these is that it's the same but different. It's still a parkrun, it's still 5K, but the terrain and the course and everything about it is specific to that venue. And we've been to probably 10 other parkruns in 2023, some on the coast. We went to Woolacombe, for example, which is one of the country's hardest. We've been to loads now, and it's just a really great way of sort of seeing some of the world while you're doing your running. So as we approach 2024, we look at how many park runs each of us had done. I was sort of in the 90s, as was Holly, albeit a couple apart, and Isabelle was in the late 40s. So with a little bit of engineering, missing the odd run here and there, we were able to get our park runs synchronized so that all of our milestones would fall on the same day. So that pretty much brings us up to date, right back to where we began at our 100th milestone run. 100 for me, 100 for Holly, 50 for Isabelle. So we decided that we would all run this one together as a sort of a trio of milestones, and it would all be done at Isabelle's pace, albeit just more relaxed because Isabelle and Holly had bad chests. So we started off mid-pack and we started to go with the flow. You can only go as fast as the pack generally if you're in the middle of it. But when it started to thin out, Isabelle started to accelerate, which meant Mummy and Daddy had to keep up. It was all great though. Isabelle showed a remarkable consistency in her running and a maturity that we had not seen before. So now in 2024, I've just completed my 100th parkrun after 8 years and 4 months of trying. So what does parkrun mean to me today? Well, it means a great deal more than it did to 2015 Martin, the take it or leave it Martin. Nowadays, it means get a little bit of exercise for myself, but more importantly than that, it's knowing that I'm setting a good example for my children. They get to see Daddy run every week, and it's starting to, you can see it, the cogs are turning. They are looking at me as if I'm a role model. Being fit and being their dad is two of the proudest parts of my entire life. So for them to look up at me and be inspired by my fitness and the effort that I put in, it means the world to me. There's obviously wider inspirations there as well. I mean, my wife, and she's constantly attacking her times. Even Granny, she's there every single week as well. Those guys will often show up the next day and volunteer for Parkrun Junior. There's this massive social bubble that surrounds the entire core teams of both events that we're a part of. It's lovely that we can attend parkruns, that wherever we go in the country, potentially the world, that the parkruns are there and you can go and visit other core teams doing their thing as well. So when I think back to 2015 Martin, the take it or leave it Martin, I wish he'd probably committed a little bit more to it then. And I think part of why he didn't was because of sort of the distance. And the fact that I didn't have children then meant that I was a little bit more sort of flippant with my decision making. Oh, I'll just have a lie-in today. Obviously, when you have kids, lie-ins are a thing of the past anyway, so you might as well get up and go run a parkrun. Okay, that's the end of this story, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It is a bit of a roller coaster, as I said. I'm very much looking forward to my next 100. However, the next 100th is not a milestone, is it? I've got to wait to 250 now, which is at least 3 years. So insane when you say it out loud. 3 years from now, I'll be approaching my 47th birthday. Holy crap. See you in 3 years, I suppose. All right, guys, thank you for watching this video. Please give the channel a subscribe. I will see you soon. Mart out.